The containment field shattered at 0300 hours, and that's when I knew we were all going to die. I'm Vex Thor, Senior Security Officer aboard the Times Luminous Accord Asterisk, and in my 43 cycles of service, I'd never seen anything break through a Class 7 barrier. These fields could hold a plasma storm, could cage a Krellian berserker mid-rage, could contain anything the galaxy decided to throw at us. But there she was, standing in the smoking wreckage of what used to be an impenetrable energy wall, wearing a stained tank top, shorts that barely qualified as clothing, and those ridiculous earth-foot coverings they call flip-flops. She didn't even look winded. "You know," she said, scratching her head and yawning, "where I'm from, kidnapping someone is generally frowned upon." Kidnapping. She called it kidnapping. We'd just acquired the most valuable specimen in 3 sectors, an actual human, an uncontacted member of the species that had every government and research facility in a panic, and she was complaining about protocol violations. Captain HFY, his dorsal plates flushing that particular shade of purple that meant he was reconsidering all his life choices, took 3 steps backward. "Impossible. The field, it's rated for. How did you—" "Oh, that." She gestured casually at the sparking remains. "Yeah, I just, reversed the polarity. Basic electromagnetic principles. You guys use a rotating frequency dampener, right? Pretty standard stuff. Took me like, 15 minutes to figure out the pattern. 15 minutes. We'd spent 2 cycles planning her capture. 2 full cycles. We'd studied her species from afar, watched their broadcasts, analyzed their technology, their biology, their society. We knew they were developing faster than any species on record, that they'd gone from primitive combustion engines to splitting atoms in less than a century. We knew they were irrational, violent, and utterly unpredictable. What we didn't know, what nobody told us, was that they were all apparently engineering prodigies who could dismantle military-grade containment systems while barefoot. "Listen," she continued, padding across the deck with those absurd shoes making wet slapping sounds against the metal floor. "I was having a really nice evening. I had tacos, I was rewatching my favorite show for the 3rd time, I was literally about to fall asleep, and then you guys, with your tractor beam or whatever, decided to beam me up. Do you have any idea how disorienting it is to go from your couch to a spaceship in like 2 seconds? HFY found his voice, though it came out strangled. You watched us approach your planet? Dude, your ship is like the size of Manhattan. Of course I saw you. Everyone saw you. We've been tracking your energy signature for 3 days. Did you seriously think we wouldn't notice a massive alien spacecraft in orbit? 3 days. We'd used full cloaking technology. Military-grade stealth systems that had cost the Accord 17 million credits. Systems that made us invisible to anything short of a quantum sensor array. And this human, this creature standing there in sleeping clothes and cheap footwear, was telling us that every member of her species had been watching us the entire time. I checked my scanner, because I'm thorough, because that's what keeps you alive in this job. The human female, designation unknown, approximately 1.7 meters tall, mass 63 kilograms, completely unarmed. No weapons, no armor, no enhancements. By galactic standards, she was fragile, delicate. Her species had thin skin, breakable bones, no natural defenses. They couldn't even regulate their own body temperature properly. So why was everyone in the bridge backing away from her? "What's your designation?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, professional. Someone had to maintain protocol here. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in those strange forward-facing predator eyes that made my secondary heart skip a beat. Intelligence, calculation, amusement. "Mira," she said. "Mira Kowalski. And you are?" "I am Vex Thor, security officer, and you are a person you kidnapped. Yeah, we covered this." She glanced around the bridge, taking in the tactical displays, the weapons systems, the crew of 15 highly trained officers who were all suddenly very interested in their console readouts. "Nice ship, though. Seriously, this is some impressive tech. Is that a graviton wave drive? We've been theorizing about those for years. Do you achieve faster than light travel through dimensional folding, or do you actually create a warp bubble? I'm genuinely curious." Captain HFY made a sound like a deflating pressure valve. "You understand graviton theory?" "I mean, I'm not a physicist, but yeah, basic principles. We've had the math worked out for like 50 years. We just couldn't figure out how to generate enough energy." You guys obviously solved that problem. She actually walked right up to our primary tactical console and peered at the display. Whoa, is that a quantum entanglement communication array? That's incredible. What's your bandwidth? Lieutenant Sorvek, our communications officer, answered before I could stop him. 12 petabytes per standard cycle, but we're limited by the receiver's processing capability and… He caught himself, his face flaps quivering in embarrassment. Why am I telling you this? Mira grinned, actually grinned, showing her teeth, those flat omnivore teeth that somehow looked threatening in a way our pointed carnivore fangs never did. Because you're excited about your work and you want to share it. Nothing wrong with that. Seriously, 12 petabytes? We're barely managing gigabytes over similar distances. You guys are decades ahead of us in Comtech. Centuries, Hicksmar corrected automatically. We're centuries ahead of you in all technological applications. Your species is barely space capable. You haven't even established a colony on your own moon. Well, yeah, because we've been busy with other stuff. Wars, mostly. Economic collapses. Reality television. You know how it is. She said it so casually, like galactic-scale technological disparities were just minor inconveniences. So anyway, why'd you grab me specifically? Was it the engineering degree? Because, I gotta tell you, I'm really more of a software person. If you wanted a mechanical engineer, you should have grabbed my friend Jake. He can build anything. I pulled up her file on my personal display, the one we'd compiled from Earth's public networks. Mira Kowalski, age 28, bachelor's degree in computer science, employed at a mid-level technology firm, lived alone in a small dwelling in a city called Portland. Nothing remarkable. Nothing that screamed valuable specimen. We selected you because you matched our acquisition parameters, I said. Healthy, young, average intelligence for your species. Average, she laughed, and I realized I'd made a tactical error. You think I'm average? That's hilarious. Also kind of insulting, but mostly hilarious. Hicksmar stepped forward, trying to reassert control of the situation. Regardless of your individual capabilities, you are now property of the Galactic Research Consortium. You will be studied, catalogued, and your biology will be, yeah, no. Mira cut him off, her tone shifting from casual to something harder, colder. That's not happening. You misunderstand, the captain said, his translation collar catching his words and rendering them in the human's primitive language. This is not a negotiation. You are a specimen. You have no rights under… She moved. I don't know how else to describe it. One moment she was standing 3 meters away, relaxed, seemingly harmless. The next moment she was behind Hicksmar with her arm around his throat and his own sidearm, pressed against his primary neural cluster. Nobody had seen her cross the distance. Nobody had tracked the movement. She'd simply been there, and then she was here, and our captain was making choking sounds while his crew stood frozen in shock. Let me explain something, Mira said, her voice perfectly calm, like she was discussing weather patterns instead of committing assault on a ranking officer. On Earth, we have this thing called human rights. It's a whole deal. We fought wars over it, wrote documents, established international laws. And one of the most fundamental principles is that nobody, and I mean nobody, gets to own another person. We sorted that out a couple hundred years ago. Bit of a rough period in our history, actually. Very messy. Lots of casualties. She pressed the weapon harder against Hicksmar's scales. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take me back to Earth. You're going to apologize for the inconvenience, and you're going to never, ever try this again. Because if you do, if any of you try to take another human for your little research project, I promise you, we will find you. And you won't like what happens when we do. I should have activated the security protocols. Should have called for backup. Should have initiated the stun fields. Should have done something other than stand there with my mouth hanging open while a 63-kilogram human in flip-flops held my captain hostage with his own weapon. But I didn't. Because I was trying to process what I'd just witnessed. Humans weren't supposed to be this fast. According to our research, they were persistence hunters, slow and steady, designed to outlast prey over long distances. They weren't ambush predators. They weren't built for explosive speed. Except this one apparently was. Vex Thor, Mira said, looking directly at me while maintaining her hold on Hicksmar. I can see you're thinking about doing something tactical. Don't. I grew up with 3 older brothers. Survived. 4 years of competitive martial arts training, and I once fought off a mugger using a rolled-up newspaper. I really don't want to hurt anyone here, but I absolutely will if you make me. A rolled-up newspaper. She'd used plant fibers as a weapon and won. Stand down, Hicksmar wheezed. Everyone, stand down. Smart choice, Mira said. She released him, stepped back, and casually disassembled the weapon in her hands. Just took it apart like she'd been trained on Galactic Consortium military hardware her entire life. Components clattered to the deck. There, see? I'm reasonable. I don't want to cause problems. I just want to go home, finish my show, and maybe eat some ice cream. That's literally all I want. She looked around the bridge again, and this time I saw what the others were seeing. Not a specimen, not a primitive creature from an uncontacted world. A threat. So, she said brightly, her tone shifting back to that casual friendliness like the last 30 seconds hadn't happened. Who's flying this thing? Because I assume you have a pilot, right? Someone who can set course back to Earth? I'd really appreciate that. Hicksmar rubbed his throat, his plates still flushed with distress colors. We cannot simply return you. There are protocols, procedures, the consortium has invested significant resources. I don't care. 2 words. Flat. Final. The kind of certainty that made you realize you weren't in a negotiation. You were in a hostage situation. And you were the hostage. The captain looked at me. I looked at the tactical displays. Our weapons were still armed, still capable of stunning or restraining one small human female. We had superior numbers, superior technology, superior everything. But somehow, standing there in the wreckage of our containment field, surrounded by the pieces of a disassembled military sidearm, facing down a creature that had moved faster than our sensors could track, I had the distinct feeling that none of our advantages mattered. There's something you should know, I said slowly, trying to buy time to think. About why we took you. Mira tilted her head, interested. I'm listening. Your species, your planet, Earth, you're not unknown to the galaxy. We've been watching you for 50 of your years. And what we've seen, what we've documented. I paused, choosing my words carefully. You terrify us. She blinked. I'm sorry, what? In the entire recorded history of galactic civilization, spanning 12,000 cycles and 43 documented species, no race has ever developed as rapidly as humans. No species has shown such capacity for violence, for innovation, for survival. You went from simple agriculture to splitting atoms in less than 10,000 rotations of your planet. Most species take 100,000. I pulled up the comparative data on the main display. Graphs, timelines, technological development, curves. Human advancement looked like a vertical line compared to everyone else's gentle slopes. You've had 2 global wars in a single century, I continued. Wars that killed millions, that utilized weapons capable of rendering your planet uninhabitable. And then you just, what? Decided to stop? You created international bodies to prevent future conflicts, established treaties, started cooperating. That's not normal. That's not how species behave. Mira stared at the display, her expression unreadable. So you kidnapped me because you're afraid of us. We took you because the consortium needs to understand you. Before you develop faster than light travel, before you spread beyond your solar system, before you become something we can't control. The silence that followed felt heavy, oppressive. I'd said too much, revealed too much, but it was too late now. Control, Mira repeated softly. You want to control us. We want to understand you, Hicksmar said quickly. To learn, to find common ground, by kidnapping random people and studying them like lab rats? Her voice was rising now, anger bleeding through the calm exterior. You're afraid of what we might become, so your solution is to violate our rights, our autonomy, our freedom. Do you have any idea how that sounds? We're trying to prevent a war, I said. If humans enter the galactic community unprepared, if you bring your violence, your unpredictability, your insane rate of technological development into a galaxy that's been at peace for 3,000 cycles, millions could die. We're trying to protect everyone, including you, Mira laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. You think we're the threat? You guys literally have weapons that can glass planets. I saw the tactical readouts on your console, Vex Thor. This ship could sterilize a continent in minutes. But sure, we're the dangerous ones because we had some wars and developed technology quickly. She had a point, a very good point. One that I'd been carefully not thinking about for the past 2 cycles. The difference, I said quietly, is that we learned to control ourselves over millions of years of evolution. You haven't. You're still young, still volatile, still capable of anything. That makes you unpredictable. And in galactic politics, unpredictable means dangerous. Mira walked over to the viewport, looking out at the stars, at Earth hanging in the distance like a blue marble. You know what the really funny thing is? You're absolutely right. We are dangerous. We are unpredictable. We are capable of incredible violence. She turned back to us, and I saw something in her eyes that made me wish I'd stayed in my quarters tonight. But we're also capable of incredible compassion. We're capable of sacrifice, of cooperation, of choosing peace when war would be easier. Yeah, we've had conflicts, we've made mistakes, we've done terrible things. But we've also created art that makes people weep, music that transcends language, stories that inspire hope across generations. We've sent probes to the edge of our solar system just to see what's out there. We've cured diseases, fed the hungry, reached out our hands to former enemies and called them friends. She stepped closer, and I noticed that nobody was backing away anymore. We were listening. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? It's not our technology or our violence or our weird ability to survive on a death-world planet. It's that we refuse to give up, ever, on anything. You can knock us down, you can hurt us, you can tell us something's impossible, and we'll just get back up and find another way. Because that's what we do. That's what we've always done. Mira smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made me realize we'd made a catastrophic error in judgment. So here's what's really going to happen, she said. You're going to take me home, and then you're going to go back to your consortium and tell them that Earth is off limits. Tell them we're not interested in being studied or controlled or managed. Tell them that when we're ready, when we've developed our own faster-than-light travel and established our own place in the galaxy, we'll reach out, on our terms, as equals. And if the consortium doesn't agree, Hixmar asked. Mira's smile widened. Then I guess you'll find out exactly how dangerous humans can be. The proximity alarm started screaming. Every display on the bridge lit up red. Collision warnings, tactical alerts, weapons locks, all blaring at once in a symphony of technological panic. What in the void? I spun to my console, my claws flying over the controls. Captain, we have multiple contacts. 20 no, 30 ships just appeared on short-range sensors. They're surrounding us. Impossible, Hixmar said. There are no species in this sector with that kind of fleet capacity. The humans don't even have one functional spacecraft, and oh, about that, Mira said casually. Remember how I said everyone on Earth saw you? Yeah, we've kind of been preparing for first contact. Turns out, when you give humans a common threat, we're actually pretty good at working together. We built some ships, just in case. I stared at my readouts. The ships surrounding us were crude, primitive compared to our technology, but they were real, they were armed, and there were a lot of them. That's not possible, I whispered. You can't have built a fleet in 3 days. Mira shrugged. We didn't. We've been building them for 5 years, ever since we detected the first anomalous readings at the edge of the solar system. We just kept them hidden until we needed them. Surprise! 5 years. They'd known we were coming for 5 years, and instead of panicking, instead of preparing for invasion or surrender, they'd built a fleet. Of course they had. So, Mira said, walking back to stand in front of Captain Hixmar. About that ride home? The communication channel crackled to life, and a voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Unidentified vessel, this is Admiral James Park of the Earth Defense Initiative. You are in violation of our sovereign space and have committed an act of aggression against a citizen of Earth. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. You have 60 seconds to comply. Hixmar's plates were cycling through colors I'd never seen before, a whole rainbow of panic and disbelief. They speak our language. How do they speak our language? We intercepted your communications, Mira said, examining her fingernails like this was all terribly boring. Took us about a year to crack the encryption, and another 6 months to build translation algorithms. Your language has some interesting grammatical structures, by the way. Very efficient. I liked the nested temporal modifiers. I was going to be sick. I was actually going to be physically ill. This human, this creature we'd snatched from her dwelling thinking she was some helpless primitive, had just casually admitted that her species had broken military-grade encryption, learned an alien language, and built a fleet of warships. In 5 years. "Captain," Lieutenant Sorvek said, his voice shaking, "their weapons are charging. Energy signatures are crude, but the output levels, they're channeling enough power to punch through our shields." "Of course they are," I muttered. "Because why wouldn't they? Why would anything about this situation make sense anymore?" Mira walked over to the communications console, and Sorvek practically fell over himself, moving out of her way. She tapped a few controls, frowning. "You know, your interface design is really counterintuitive. Why would you put the broadcast function next to the internal comms? That's just asking for someone to accidentally transmit something they shouldn't." She found what she was looking for and pressed it. "Admiral Park, this is Mira Kowalski. Stand down. I'm fine, they're being cooperative, and nobody needs to blow up anybody today." The voice on the other end softened immediately. "Mira? Thank God. Are you hurt? Did they harm you in any way?" "I'm good, Jim. Just annoyed. They interrupted my show during a really good part. You know how I feel about spoilers." "Copy that. Do you need extraction?" "Nah. They're giving me a ride home. Aren't you?" She looked at Hixmar with raised eyebrows. The captain nodded so hard I thought his head might detach. "Yes, absolutely. Immediate return to Earth. No delays." "See?" Mira said into the comm. "All sorted. You can stand down the fleet. Oh, and Jim, make sure someone records the rest of my show. I want to know what happens." "Already done. Your apartment's security system recorded everything before they took you. We've got it all saved. You're the best. Kowalski out." She closed the channel and turned back to us. "So, who's setting the course?" Our navigator, a young Threxian named Kolvex who'd been silent through this entire nightmare, practically lunged at his console. "Plotting course now. Fastest route to Earth's surface. We'll have you home in 17 standard minutes." "Make it 10, Mira said. "My ice cream's melting." We made it in 9. The entire flight back, I couldn't stop staring at the tactical display. 30 Earth ships maintained formation around us, primitive but functional spacecraft that had no right to exist. Their designs were asymmetrical, chaotic, clearly built by multiple different nations or groups, working with slightly different specifications. But they flew in perfect coordination, their weapons tracking us with uncomfortable precision. "How?" I finally asked, breaking the silence. "How did you do this? Your species shouldn't be capable of this level of cooperation, this speed of development. According to every model, every projection, you should still be decades away from space combat capability." Mira, who'd made herself comfortable in the captain's chair while Hixmar stood awkwardly to the side, shrugged. "You know what your models didn't account for? Spite. Pure, concentrated human spite. You know what's really great at motivating people? Telling them they can't do something. Telling them they're too primitive, too violent, too young, too whatever. That's like catnip to humans. We will move mountains just to prove you wrong." "But the resource allocation alone," I protested. "The coordination between your various political entities, the technological leaps required, the everything. It's impossible." "See, that's your problem right there. You keep using that word. Impossible." She leaned forward, her eyes bright with something that might have been amusement or might have been a warning. "Humans don't really believe in impossible. We believe in hasn't been done yet. Big difference." Lieutenant Sorvek spoke up from his station, his voice tentative. "But your species is so fractured. Hundreds of separate nations, different languages, conflicting ideologies. You fight among yourselves constantly. How did you get everyone to work together?" "Oh, we're still fighting," Mira said cheerfully. "Just this morning, there was a huge argument in the UN about whether to use railguns or missile systems on the defense platforms. Very heated debate. France almost walked out. But when it comes to outsiders threatening Earth, when someone from beyond our planet decides they can just take one of us for study, yeah, we put aside our differences real quick." She stood up, stretching like she'd just woken from a nap rather than orchestrated a hostage situation aboard an alien spacecraft. "You guys made a fundamental miscalculation. You saw our conflicts and assumed we were weak, divided, easy to manipulate. What you didn't realize is that fighting is how we bond. My brothers and I used to beat the crap out of each other growing up, but the second someone outside the family messed with one of us, united front. Immediate and total retaliation. You compare galactic politics to sibling relationships? Hicksmar asked, sounding genuinely baffled. Why not? Same principle. Humans are a family. A really big, really dysfunctional family that argues about everything and can't agree on anything except one thing. She smiled, and there was steel underneath it. Nobody messes with Earth. Nobody takes our people. Nobody decides they know what's best for us. We'll figure it out ourselves, thanks. The ship shuddered as we entered Earth's atmosphere. Through the viewports, I could see the planet's surface rushing up to meet us, blue oceans and green continents and swirling white clouds. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. I knew better now. Approaching the designated landing coordinates, Kolvex announced. Setting down in 3 minutes. Mira walked over to the viewport, looking down at her world with an expression I couldn't quite read. You know what's funny? We've been preparing for first contact for decades. Movies, books, TV shows, all imagining how it would happen. Some people thought you'd be friendly, bringing peace and enlightenment. Others thought you'd be hostile, coming to conquer or destroy. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. She turned to look at us. We thought you'd treat us as equals, or at least as beings worthy of basic respect. We never imagined you'd see us as specimens, as things to be studied and catalogued and owned. That was, honestly, kind of insulting. We didn't mean to insult you, I said, and realized how absurd that sounded. We were following established protocols for contact with pre-spacefaring species. Maybe your protocols need updating. Mira walked toward the airlock as the ship settled onto the ground with a gentle thud. Here's some free advice for your consortium. When you meet a new species, try talking to them first. Revolutionary concept, I know, but it tends to work better than kidnapping. The airlock opened, revealing a landing pad surrounded by armed soldiers, military vehicles, and what looked like half the world's media. Cameras pointed at us from every direction. Lights blazed. The crowd beyond the security perimeter was enormous. Thousands of humans gathered to witness this moment. Mira paused at the threshold, looking back at us one last time. Oh, and Vex Thor? You asked earlier what Earth's apex predator was. I had asked that, back during the planning phases of her capture. We'd studied their biosphere extensively, catalogued their impressive variety of dangerous species. Lions, bears, sharks, crocodiles, all magnificent killers in their own right. Humans aren't the apex predator, I said. You don't have the physical attributes. No claws, no fangs, no venom, no natural weapons. By every biological measure, you're prey animals. Mira's smile was radiant and absolutely terrifying. That's where you're wrong. We are the apex predator. We're the most dangerous thing on this planet, and we have been for thousands of years. Want to know why? She stepped out onto the landing pad, into the lights and cameras and the roar of the crowd, and called back over her shoulder. Because we decided we were. The airlock sealed behind her, and we were left standing in our ship, surrounded by a fleet we hadn't known existed, on a planet we'd thought we understood. Captain, I said quietly, we need to leave. Now. Agreed, Hicksmar said. Kolvex, take us up. Maximum acceleration as soon as we clear the atmosphere. The ship lifted off, and through the viewports, I watched Mira disappear into a crowd of her people, all of them cheering, celebrating, welcoming her home. Admiral Park, a tall human in military uniform, embraced her like family. Others pressed close, touching her, verifying she was real and safe. They'd built a fleet for her. 30 warships constructed in secret, armed and ready, all to retrieve one person. One supposedly average member of their species. We're clear of the atmosphere, Kolvex announced. The Earth ships are maintaining distance but tracking our departure. How long until we can jump to faster than light? Hicksmar asked. We need to reach the system's edge. At current speed, 43 minutes. 43 minutes of flying through human-controlled space, surrounded by ships that might decide we were still a threat. It was going to be the longest 43 minutes of my life. I pulled up the file on Mira Kowalski again, reading through the details we'd gathered. Average intelligence, we'd written. Unremarkable. Low threat assessment. Every single evaluation had been catastrophically wrong. "Sir," Lieutenant Sorvek said, "I'm receiving a transmission from Earth. It's addressed to you personally, Vex Thor." "Me?" I frowned. "Patch it through." Mira's voice filled the bridge, recorded but still carrying that casual warmth that made you forget how dangerous she was. "Hey, Vex Thor. Figured I should clear something up before you guys. Report back to your consortium. That whole thing about me being average intelligence? Yeah, that was hilarious. I have 3 degrees, including a doctorate in artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. I helped design the encryption protocols for Earth's defense network. I've been consulting with the EDI for the past 2 years. The blood drained from my face. Or whatever the equivalent was for my species. I felt cold, hollow. "The thing is," Mira continued, "we knew you were watching us. We've known for years, and we knew that eventually someone would try something like this. So we prepared. We built the fleet, yes, but we also built something else. A detection network. Satellites hidden in orbital debris, sensors disguised as space junk, monitoring systems scattered throughout the solar system. We've been tracking every ship that enters our space for the past 3 years. A pause, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Your ship's navigational computer now has a complete map of our defense network downloaded into its core memory. Call it a gift, show it to your consortium, show them exactly what they're dealing with, and tell them that Mira Kowalski, average human, sends her regards." The transmission ended. I checked the computer. She was right. Of course she was right. Nestled in our navigation files was a complete schematic of Earth's defensive capabilities. Weapons, platforms, ship deployments, sensor arrays, response times, everything. It was a threat and a promise, wrapped in one elegant package. "We see you. We're ready for you. Try again and see what happens." "She hacked our systems," Sorvek whispered. "While she was here, she accessed our computer core and uploaded files." "How? When? We would have detected any intrusion." "Would we?" I asked. "Did we detect her breaking out of a Class 7 containment field? Did we see her move across the bridge? Did we predict any single thing she did tonight?" Silence answered me. The minutes crawled by. Earth receded behind us, that deceptively peaceful blue marble hiding a species that had gone from zero to existential threat in the span of a single generation. The escort ships maintained their distance, watching, waiting, making sure we actually left. Finally, blessedly, we reached the jump point. "Engaging faster than light drive," Kolvex announced. Space twisted, reality bent, and we were gone, leaving Earth's solar system behind. The relief on the bridge was palpable. Officers slumped at their stations, tension draining away. We'd survived. Against all odds, against all reason, we'd walked into humanity's domain and walked back out. "Captain," I said once my hearts had stopped racing, "permission to speak freely?" Hicksmar nodded, looking years older than he had at the start of our shift. "We need to recommend that Earth be classified as a Level 1 protected world. No contact, no observation, no interference. We seal off their sector and we don't go back. Ever. The consortium won't like that," he said. "They've invested significant resources into monitoring human development. They'll want to continue observation, perhaps attempt a more diplomatic approach." "Sir, with respect, I don't think you understand what we just encountered." I pulled up the data we'd collected, the files Mira had so graciously provided. These humans went from primitive spaceflight to a functional defense fleet in 5 years. They reverse-engineered our language from intercepted communications. They hacked our computer systems while we held them prisoner. And that was all while fighting among themselves, dealing with their normal social conflicts, managing hundreds of separate political entities. I zoomed in on the defense network schematic. Now imagine what they'll do when they're united with a common purpose. Imagine what happens when they actually achieve faster-than-light capability. They'll be out here, in our space, within a decade, maybe less. "They're still centuries behind us technologically," Hicksmar protested weakly. "Are they? Because they broke our containment field in 15 minutes. They speak our language. They matched our military assets in 5 years using technology they invented themselves, and every single model, every projection we've made about them has been wrong." I met his eyes. "Captain, They're not centuries behind us, they're years behind us. And the gap is closing fast. Hicksmar stared at the display for a long moment, watching Earth's defensive network rotate slowly, showing coverage, redundancies, kill zones. It was crude by our standards, but it was effective. And it had been built in secret while we watched, thinking we were the observers and they were the observed. "What do you think they'll do?" he asked quietly. "When they develop faster than light travel? When they come out into the galaxy?" I thought about Mira, standing on that landing pad in her flip-flops and shorts, looking like she'd just stepped out of her dwelling for a casual errand. I thought about her smile when she'd dismantled our weapon, her casual dismantling of our assumptions, her absolute certainty that humans would never be controlled or contained or managed by anyone. "I think," I said slowly, "they'll do exactly what they've always done. They'll surprise us. They'll achieve things we think are impossible. They'll fight among themselves and somehow still present a united front to outsiders. They'll be unpredictable, chaotic, infuriating, and absolutely unstoppable." I closed the display, and I think the galaxy isn't ready for them. Not even close. Hicksmar nodded slowly. "I'll recommend protected world status, maximum restrictions, no contact until they initiate it themselves. Do you think the consortium will listen after we show them this data? After we explain what happened tonight?" He laughed a bitter sound. "They'd be fools not to. And the consortium may be many things, but they're not fools." I hoped he was right. I really did. Because the alternative, trying to control or contain or manage humanity, was going to end badly for everyone involved. The ship hummed around us, carrying us back towards civilized space, towards stations and colonies filled with species that had grown comfortable in their power, secure in their technological superiority. They'd been the dominant force in the galaxy for thousands of years, moving through the stars unchallenged. They had no idea what was coming. I pulled up Mira's file one last time, looking at the image we'd captured of her during our surveillance. She was laughing in the photo, head thrown back, completely unself-conscious. Happy, human. Average intelligence, the file said. Low threat assessment. I deleted those lines and typed new ones. Classification. Extreme threat. Intelligence. Severely underestimated. Recommend. Avoid all contact with human species pending further evaluation. Additional notes. Humans consider kidnapping to be a serious crime. Also, they really don't like having their entertainment interrupted. Suggest respecting both of these facts in future encounters. Then, because I was feeling honest and because someone needed to say it, I added one more line. Personal assessment. They're going to eat us alive when they get out here. And we're going to deserve it. I saved the file and sent it to Central Command, knowing that somewhere in the bureaucracy, someone would read it and dismiss it as exaggeration. They'd look at Earth's primitive technology, their fractured political structure, their short history, and they'd convince themselves that humanity was still manageable, still controllable, still beneath concern. They'd be wrong, because I'd seen what one human could do when motivated. I'd watched Mira Kowalski break our technology, take our weapons, and orchestrate our retreat using nothing but intelligence, determination, and an apparently limitless capacity for spite. And she was, by her own species standards, completely average. I looked out at the stars streaming past as we flew through faster-than-light space, and I wondered what the exceptional humans were like. The warriors, the leaders, the genuinely brilliant ones, the ones who hadn't been casually grabbed while watching entertainment and eating tacos. Then I decided I didn't want to know. Some questions were better left unanswered. Some threats were better left unexamined. Some species were better left alone to develop in peace until they were ready to meet the galaxy on their own terms. Humanity was all three. Vex Thor? Sorvek's voice interrupted my thoughts. Are you all right? You look troubled. I'm fine, I lied. Just thinking about the report I'll need to file. What are you going to say? I thought about Mira's final words. Because we decided we were. The truth, I said, that we encountered Earth's apex predator tonight, that we're lucky to have survived the encounter, and that next time, we might not be so fortunate. There won't be a next time though, right? Sorvek asked hopefully. We're not going back? I looked at the young officer, at his innocent belief that we could simply avoid humanity, that we could seal off their section of space and pretend they didn't exist. "They'll come to us," I said, "sooner than anyone expects. And when they do, when humans step out into the galaxy, with their chaos and their violence, and their impossible determination to prove everyone wrong." I trailed off, searching for the right words. "What?" Sorvek pressed. I smiled, though there was no humor in it. "I hope they remember that at least one ship decided to take them home. I hope they remember that when they had us helpless, surrounded, completely at their mercy, we chose cooperation over conflict." "You think they'll care about that? About one interaction?" I remembered the way Mira had spoken to Admiral Park, the affection in her voice, the way the crowd had welcomed her home, celebration, and relief mixed together, the way she'd given us safe passage and a warning instead of destruction. "Yeah," I said, "I think they'll care." Humans seem to value kindness, even from enemies, especially from enemies. It's strange, but it's part of what makes them so dangerous. They have the capacity for incredible violence, but they also have the capacity for incredible mercy. You never know which one you're going to get until it's too late to change course. The ship flew on through the dark, carrying us back to a galaxy that was about to change forever. Whether the consortium listened to our warnings or ignored them, whether they respected Earth's sovereignty or tried again to exert control, didn't really matter. The future was coming, wearing flip-flops and a smile, armed with spite and determination and an absolute refusal to be anything other than what it chose to be. And I, for one, was going to recommend we get out of its way. Because I'd met humanity's apex predator tonight, looked into her eyes, and realized the truth that every prey animal learns eventually. You can't outrun what you can't outthink. You can't outthink what refuses to follow the rules. And you can't win against an opponent who's already decided that losing isn't an option. The humans were coming. The galaxy wasn't ready. And honestly, I couldn't wait to see what happened next. From a very safe distance, of course. Very, very far away. Preferably in a different sector entirely. Maybe I'd request a transfer to the Galactic Rim. I heard the quiet zones were nice this time of cycle. Nothing exciting ever happened there. Yeah, that sounded perfect.